All right, folks, what's going on out there? Happy Wednesday. We got some action in the tropics. It's July 29th, 2020. Yeah, 2020. Scary year so far. So why not? Why not have some possible action already or so early in the hurricane season? It's 2020, right? Anything could happen. So, yeah, we're talking about possible threat of a system out of the Atlantic for Florida. Um, Late July, more like a conversation we would have at the middle of August going into September. But we're going to go ahead and talk about potential Cyclone 9 and what's going on out there. This is the last advisory at 11 o'clock today from the National Hurricane Center. This is their forecast map where they have the possibilities of this thing ending up. But if you look at this map, you don't see an H on here, so it's pretty much as a tropical storm right now. Eventually, when we don't know, really don't know much, to be honest with you, because this thing hasn't formed a well-defined center yet. It's not a closed-off low. It's still open, very broad. There's been multiple vortices in here found. No dominant one yet. They're just kind of going with the current one right now and predicting making a track off of that somewhere inside this bubble. So never stare at the center lines of these things. They rarely take the center line. It usually takes something with inside the bubble, or they continue shifting these track bubbles one way or the other, and it ends up somewhere totally different. So I will tell you right now, I don't like these current track bubbles with something that's a potential tropical cyclone because there's no current low level circulation with this thing. It's just very broad, so it's very hard to predict where something's going to be that you don't have a closed low for. So they're still looking for that closed low. Um, I'll show you current satellite and why things may be changing here with where they're putting forecast maps at currently versus where it may shift. Now, as we know, when this first started out, we had more of a bubble right over the middle to the east coast of Florida, and it's gradually been shifting more to the west over the last few advisories, according to where it looked like the center was maybe going to form. Now, latest couple satellite shots are showing some changes to all this. So let me go into the infrared satellite here. Now, currently, if we're looking at where they have the low currently, um, as of 11, it looked more like somewhere in this vicinity in here is about where they were putting the low level circulation. We see a couple different blobs here. This thing is very elliptical and off balance. It's not very symmetrical. Like you would consider this blob as a symmetrical blob, but that's not the entirety of the system. This is the entirety of the system, and it's very slanted and elliptical in shape. We really need that symmetrical shape in order to really get this thing going. So that's why it's had such a tough time getting formed and organized since it rolled off the coast of Africa. It's always had a very broad, low circulation with it, but it's been moving so fast to the west and west northwest that it's really had a hard time keeping up with itself and to get organized. So um, now, if you look at the last couple frames here, we still have this blob down in here, but there's no evidence of a low-level circulation forming in here. And as a matter of fact, Hurricane Hunter aircrafts were out here about an hour and a half ago, and they found some of the stronger winds up in this vicinity here. So now, if you look in here now, you can see a lot more action firing up on this northern side, which is east and southeast of Puerto Rico. And also on these some of the satellite shots, they've been seeing a lot more lightning popping up and the storms up in this area, which indicates some strengthening in this vicinity in here. So this may end up being the section that ends up taking over, and perhaps a low level circulation forming in this vicinity somewhere. Now, if that's the case, that's off balance from where they currently have the low situated at. So now you would have to base your forecast tracks off of something possibly forming up in this area, which is obviously north of the current situation and spot where they have the track guidance at. So that changes a lot. That changes forecast track. That possibly changes forecast intensity. I'm going to back off this map and get a broader view to show you kind of the geography here of where it is and what we're dealing with as far as where it could be heading. So let's take a look at the Western Atlantic shot here. All right, so once again, here it is, barreling along, moving along really quickly to the west and northwest. Like I said, there's a couple different sections to this thing. It's very elongated, as you can see on this map. You got a couple different blobs here. You got this blob in here, and then you got another one there, and another one in here. And then this half, this quadrant of it is the quadrant now that we have to start paying attention to, because this is getting really fired up. And like I said, this is where some of the stronger winds have been found. Now, the current track was taking it something like this in this vicinity, hitting the north, off the north coast of Cuba, obviously island of Hispaniola, very mountainous, keeping it destroyed and torn apart if it goes across that island, because it's got some huge mountains on it, and then curving up, just on the west side of the state and into the eastern Gulf of Mexico, maybe up towards the Panhandle of Florida. Now, if the trend continues with this section of this getting more going than this section, and this section takes over, then the entire envelope of the forecast track will have to be adjusted. And now you're looking probably at something more like, my keyboard's kind of in the way here, so let's do this again. So if it's, let's just say it's somewhere in this vicinity rather than down here, now you're going to be looking at a track more across Puerto Rico, missing the island of Hispaniola. And now you're looking at more of a bubble like this. So now you're putting, the east coast of Florida more under the gun. And now you're also talking about open water here. So those are some things to keep in mind. Now, regardless of whether it ends up going down this way or over this way, this storm has a lot of hurdles to jump. And I'll put it to you like this: it's not impossible for it to get over those hurdles. Remember what happened with Dorian. They kept saying it was encountering lots of dry air and shear. Well, up in this area is a lot of dry air right now. Very dry air. This storm is going to, in order for this storm to really survive and get going, it's going to have to feed off its own pocket of moisture. So we'll have to see how that plays out as well. There's also some shear in the upper atmosphere, not terribly strong, but possibly enough to keep it from really getting going. So there's going to be a lot to figure out here in the next couple of days. I think today is going to be a critical part, is finding out which half of this ends up being the more dominant half and taking over, and figuring out where we might get a low level circulation at. That's the biggest key right now to figure out, is where this LLC actually develops at. So, it's not out of the possibility for two sections to break off, one this way and another one this way. So we'll have to see what happens. Real quick, I'll show you some other maps here to get an idea of right now currently what forecasts models have it as far as intensity. Now this is a GFS ensemble. GFS is really picking up, I think, more so on the um, northern half of this developing, and has it, a lot more models curving it east of Florida or into the east coast of Florida. And then if we look at the European models, actually this one doesn't have those European models, but this is a model consensus. All the different models, a lot of these are taking it more so on the um, on the western side of Florida. Only a few on the east side. But like I said, depends on where that circulation center is deemed at. If it's here or is it over here? Obviously, if it ends up being here, then all these models have to shift more this way. So there's a lot to try to figure out still. A lot needs to happen. This storm isn't even fully formed yet. Let me go to a map that shows you what the current intensity forecasts are. Take a look at intensity guidance. If you look inside of here, you can see that the majority of the models are in this box, which is tropical storm force winds. You got a couple of them that even kill it, not even tropical storm. And I don't even know, we even have maybe one or two that peak it out at hurricane level currently, because most of the models right now are taking it across the island of Hispaniola, which is very mountainous, so obviously keeping it down to tropical storm strength. So but if that track changes more to the north, then obviously it's all this may change. So we'll keep you posted, stay updated. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a fun and exciting hurricane season, so might be on here doing this a lot. All right, guys, I'll keep you updated. Thanks for watching.